Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So we're going to continue with our Sisters of Battle review of the index today. We did, if you've missed part one, we did the HQs, 3 elite choices which are basically single models, so I basically count them as HQs, and the troops choice. So that's part one, so if you haven't seen that, if you pop back and see that, we've covered a lot of the basic things like bolt guns, frag and crack grenades, things like that, and the basic rules like Axe of Faith and Shield of Faith. So it's a good place to start because we're going to just rifle through these selections now and not touch on those too much unless it's a unique thing we haven't seen before. So we're going to do fast attack and heavy support in this section, and in the last section we're going to do elites and dedicated transports. So just to recap, so far it's been really interesting. I think already they've got a big boost in their index from their old codex. Celestine's obviously awesome now, as we kind of know, and she's actually really quite cheap. The Canoness is a great HQ choice. The Battle Sister Squad, though they won't work miracles for you, if you pardon the pun, but they are a solid troops choice, worth their points, so they're good. And these 3 single character models, actually 2 of them provide really good little buffs, so it's pretty good so far. Like I say, a big improvement. So we're going to go on to fast attack and heavy support. So the first one up is Seraphim. So they're a fast attack choice. They have a 12-inch move, weapon skill and skill 3+, strength and toughness 3, 1 wound, 1 attack, leadership 7, and a 3+ save. So I refer to that as standard sister stat line, apart from obviously the 12-inch move. So if I say that in the future, that's all I mean. They've got kind of a standardish stat line. The unit contains 1 superior and 4 seraphim. You can have an extra 5, so they can go up to 10. Each model is armed with 2 bolt pistols and frag and crack grenades. So we've been through all those weapons, but you can do a couple of funky things. So up to 2 seraphim may replace their bolt pistols with 2 hand flamers or 2 inferno pistols. The hand flamers are a 6-inch range, pistol d6, strength 3, AP dash, damage 1, and you auto hit. So probably not going to do loads, but it's probably better than the bolt pistol just because you could roll 12, you know. And obviously there is 4 of them because they've got 2 hand flamers. So you're rolling 4d6 when you are in range, so although the damage isn't fantastic, that is a lot of auto hits. And then you've got the Inferno Pistols, which is a 6-inch range, pistol 1, strength 8, AP -4, damage d6, and if you're in half range you roll 2d6 and discard the lowest when you're doing damage. So obviously nice monster stroke tank hunter, and again they have got 2 each, so that is 4 of those hitting on 3s. So that is quite a lot of damage, and assuming it doesn't cost too many points, that is the way I'd go with them. So you can bolt pistol your way through some chaff and then get after their tough units with your Inferno pistols. You can also have the superior replace one of her bolt pistols with a chainsaw or power sword for a bit of combat punch, or replace a bolt pistol with a plasma pistol. So again, if you want a bit more hurt in your shooting phases, you can do that. They have Axe of Faith and Shield of Faith. They have a rule called Angelic Visage, so reroll failed Shield of Faith and vulnerable saves for this unit. So the Shield of Faith is 6+ invulnerable, so re-rolling it, you know, the odds are obviously slightly different, but basically make it kind of like a 5+ invuln. So that is pretty big. You know, you're going to come up with 6s at an okay rate. So that's quite a nice little rule. And then Sky Strike. So basically, they can set up high in the sky and come down in your movement phases as long as they're 9 inches away from any model. Works really well. Obviously no scatter anymore, so they can deep strike, unleash all that shooting, all those Inferno pistols. So you can imagine your exorcists have damaged a vehicle a lot, and then these guys, these ladies, sorry, drop down, Inferno pistol the vehicle and finish it off. So I think they'd be pretty good for that kind of thing. And there's a chance they can still charge. Obviously they're 9 inches away, you can get those crack grenades out, start putting the hurt on in the combat phase. You have got the fly rule with them as well, so that's just an added little bonus that they can obviously take on flyers a little bit, again with those weapons like Inferno pistols, so that's an extra flexible use for them. So let's find the Adeptus Sororitas. Have I gone too far? I think I have. This is the only reason I can't wait for... Well, I'm really excited about codexes anyway, but this is one of the main reasons I'm excited about them. Trying to find this stuff sometimes is a little bit of a nightmare. Oh, of course, it's in with the Adeptus Ministorum, even though they're Adeptus Sororitas. Right, so Seraphim are 11 points a model, which is good. You know, they have got jump packs, effectively, the 12-inch move. They've got power armor. They've got 2 guns. They have some cool rules, so 11 points is fine. Frag and crack grenades are free. Bolt pistols are free. So let's look at the specialist weapons. So Inferno pistols are 12 points, but you are paying 24 because they have 2 of them. So that is quite a lot of points. The plasma pistol, if you want to give it to the superior, is 7. So that's not too bad, 7 points. Hand flamers, that was the other one. Hand flamer is 6 points, but it is still 12 points because again you're having 2 of them. So 10 of, but I think it's worth having the Inferno pistols because 10 of them would only be 110 points. So if you then had 4 Inferno pistols, as much as it would cost you 48 points, so you'd be on 158 points. That's still not a crazy amount of points, and considering these ladies are guaranteed to come down when you want them to, within range, no questions asked. I think that makes them pretty good. The only negative, as I'm sure you've probably thought about by now, is their pistols are a 6-inch range, so they didn't come down within 9 inches. They then actually can't shoot their weapons, and that does reduce their usefulness a little bit. So you may be better off deploying them and trying to move up the table, because the sisters have a lot for the enemy to concentrate on. So you may find they're not really shot at, so they may get away with that, and they've got power armor to protect themselves. So probably, unless you just go with the old bolt pistol unit, this unit's probably better to deploy on the board, I think, really, because it's hard to hide in 40k. A lot of boards haven't got a lot of terrain, so it's not like you can deep strike them, hide for a turn, then jump out and use your Inferno pistols. So yeah, quite an interesting one. I think they're a really good squad and well worth the points. I just think it'll take you a few games just to figure out how exactly am I going to use these. Do I want to deep strike them? Do I want to deploy them? Are they going to go tank hunting? Are they going to go infantry hunting? But they are cool. They are cool. And you've seen some great conversion using Sanguinary Guard wings and things like that, so they can look awesome as well. Okay, so that's the Seraphim. So we've got the Retributors. They're a heavy support. So they have a standard sister stat line. The only difference is they are weapon skill... Oh no, that is right, isn't it? Weapon skill 4+? No. Some of them are weapon skill 4+, some are weapon skill 3+. The Retributors, like the standard sisters, weapon skill 4+. You get a unit of 4 Retributors and the Retributor Superior, but you can have 5 more models. They come on with bolt pistol, bolt gun, frag and crack grenades, so they don't actually come with any heavy weapons to start with. They have Act of Faith and Shield of Faith, so they are there purely to be given the heavy weapons. It's not like they have a cool funky rule like rending or something like that. You're like, oh, I could just have 10 sisters with bolt guns and rending. They are purely there for the heavy weapons. So obviously bolt pistol, bolt gun, frag and crack grenade. The Sister Superior can swap the bolt pistol for a weapon on the pistols list. Perhaps worth it for that last stand shot before someone charges you, because obviously they're not going to have good range. She can also replace a bolt gun with a weapon from the melee weapons, so in case you get in combat or range weapons list. Again, potentially you could have something like a plasma gun, just to help out at a bit of range. But the main thing is you can have 4 Retributors with heavy weapons, and that's the main thing. So anything with the heavy weapons list, which is obviously going to be quite a lot, but just to give you some flavour, because there's plenty of different things you could obviously give them, but just as an idea, you know, multi-melters are 27 points, plasma guns are 13, heavy flamers are 17. Because that's what a lot of people used to do, is have heavy flamer squads rocking around in the immolator, and then they can get out, and between the immolator and them can put down literally a world of hurt. So there's a few options there. Heavy bolters are 10 points. I mean, heavy bolters might be worth looking at now. They're fairly cheap, and you can get a lot of anti-tank in your sister's army, not in the Retributors. So heavy bolters, 36 inches, heavy 3, strength 5, AP -1. So it's not horrendous, but it's pretty solid. You'd have 12 shots a turn. Potentially with an Act of Faith you could shoot twice a turn. So, you know, it mounts up. The main thing is you'd have a really cheap squad because the Retributors are 9 points because they're basically a Sister of Battle. So 5 of them are 45 points. So with 4 heavy bolters, you're looking at 85 points for the whole unit. And you could replicate that, you know, 3 times. And you'd have, you know, a hell of a lot of shots. You have 36 shots without any Acts of Faith, and they could start putting some pain down. The Mighty Melters, because they're expensive and reasonably short range, I'd leave to your vehicles. The other option I think is the Heavy Flamer. If you want to mount them up, give them Heavy Flamers. It's 68 points, but that slowly puts you on, what, 110, 120 points, something like that. And they can get out of the Immolator, or Rhino if you want to put them in a Rhino, and put down a lot of firepower. But when combined with the Immolator's firepower, obviously, you know, you're going to kill a lot. In theory, you'd have 4d6 strength 5 AP -1 auto hits from the Retributor squad, plus the superior Clever Flamer, and then you'd also have 2d6 strength 5 AP -1 auto hits from the Immolation Flamer. So you're putting 6d6 strength 5 AP -1 hits on the opponent, unless they are supremely tough or potentially a vehicle. They are going to get hurt from that. They are really going to hurt. So. And again, with the Immolator, I think the whole unit would work out. How much is the Immolator roughly? We're going to go through it later in part 3 as a transport, but just 68 points. With the Flamer, it's about 100. So the unit would only work out about 210 points. And I think, you know, that'd be something really for your opponent to watch out for. So Retributor squads are good, well costed. There's some cool combos there. I think the only thing that kind of hurts them is the lack of flexibility. You're really looking at Heavy Flamers or Heavy Bolters. The Mighty Melters aren't brilliant, and there aren't lots of other options like grav cannons like Marines have and things like that. I'm sure when the Sisters are done in plastic, which I still believe they will be, all of a sudden you'll have a wealth of options to use. So they are well worth taking, and they're good and cheap in the game. It's just obviously model wise you've probably got 2 options, and that's probably it from my point of view. Obviously, please, if you have any other cool combos, put it in the comments and say, what about this combination with a multi-melter? And I'm happy to learn everything you guys have to say. So we've got 2 more selections. We've got the Dominion squad, so they're a fast attack. They do have a standard sister stat line, absolutely standard. You get 1 Dominion Superior and 4 Dominions. You can have an extra 5, so again, squads of up to 10. They come with bolt pistol, bolt gun, frag and crack grenades. The rules from there. So to start with, they are exactly like standard sisters, but they differ in a couple of very important ways. They have Act of Faith and Shield of Faith. So, number 1, they are a Vanguard unit, which now means once both sides are deployed, but before the first player takes their turn, this unit can move as if it was their movement phase. If both players have units to do this, the player who's taking the first turn moves their units first. If all models are embarked on a transport vehicle, have this ability, the transport vehicle also has that ability. So you think you can have a Dominion squad in a Rhino or an Immolator, they could get right up the board, especially if you know you're going first, apart from a Steel Initiative. They get halfway across the board, and then in your turn, unleash that close quarter fire, get right in a tank's face or something like that if these units have got melters. So they're a really cool first strike unit. But also the other crucial thing is up to 4 Dominions may replace the bolt gun with a weapon from the special weapons list. So you have no heavy weapons but 4 special weapons. So you can have 4 melter guns, 4 plasma guns, 4 flamers, whatever it is you decide you want to go for, which makes them really good. And it doesn't say that they have to be a 10-woman squad or anything. So in theory, you could have the superior and 4 people weapons. If you want them to be a bit of a throwaway squad, throw them up the board, jump out with 4 flamers and a hand flamer from the superior, do all the damage you can, then die horribly. But the units cost you no points, effectively. They can be a throwaway unit, or they can be a solid punchy unit with a lot of firepower. So I really like the Dominions. I think they're a really solid choice. The Dominions are 10 points a model, so they're only 1 point more than the basic sisters. To get Vanguard and the option of those extra special weapons, totally worth 1 point. So let's look at arming them. So if you had 5 of them as a throwaway unit, let's look at that. So it'd be 50 points plus 9, 18, 36 for the flamers, so it'd be 86 points. and 1 combi flamer, be 97 for the superior, be 97 points. Now you would have to play for the immolator, which is about 100, but obviously the immolator, with the amount of wounds they have, is likely to survive, so that will be able to reverse up and survive for a bit longer. But these sisters are pretty much thrown away. But they will get the advantage of jumping out, shooting, and then when the enemy charges them, they'll also get Wall of Death, stand and shoot as well. So, you know, they should do a lot of damage, and considering they are themselves a 100-point unit, ignore the immolator, as I say, that can probably get away. And they're going to put down all that firepower and get Overwatch, plus the immolator's supporting fire. That's pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. You can also go for a full 10 lady squad, in which case it's basically another 50 points, so it's 150 points for the unit. But then you'd need the Rhino, I believe. Yeah, because the immolator can only transport 6 models. If you want to give them melter guns, that's obviously another option. They're 17 points a model, so they would be 68. Still not really expensive, to be honest. You know, you're 118 points now, and you've got 4 melter guns, plus again, you can have a combi melter for another 19 for the superior, and you've got 5 melters at close range, because obviously you'll get out the immolator within the close range melter. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt anything. Even, you know, monoliths with their 20 wounds, their knights with whatever it is, 23, 24 wounds. You know, they'll feel the pain from that. And again, they're not cripplingly expensive. You know, you could have 3 of these units as just alpha strikes, 3 immolators, 3 small Dominion squads, send them up the board, and you're literally looking at spending about 600 points. But the alpha strike would be deadly, and also, as I say, the immolators would probably get away as well, so it's not as if you're throwing all of that away. So they're really nice. I like the flexibility of the Dominions. I think they're really cool. Melters or flamers, whichever way you want to use them. And I imagine, I mean, another way to use them, if you want to make them survive a little bit longer, is I presume they can have... Oh no, they can't. I was hoping they could have plasma guns, but they can't, unfortunately. They can have storm bolters, which is another option, and probably pretty cheap. Yeah, 4 points a model, so that, I mean, that makes them horrendously cheap. They're like 60 points for the unit, but I don't think storm bolts are amazingly effective. No, they're just a 2-shot bolt gun, so I mean, you're going to take the melters, the flamers. So Dominions, well worth taking as well. So you can see what I was talking about earlier, guys. The sisters have just become, one, more deadly, full stop, and cheaper. But the other thing is they've just become more consistent. Every choice I'm going through, I'm like, oh, that could be good. Oh, that could be good. That could be good. There are units in here that are better than others, of course, but gone are the days where there was 3 good units and Celestine, and that's, you basically just spam those 3 units and Celestine. Whereas now I haven't come across a unit. I think I did. You know, I'd be like, I'm 100% not taking that. That may change with the Sister Repentia. They're generally not brilliant, but you never know. I think every unit has its place at the moment, so that's really cool to see. So the final one we're going to go through today is the Exorcists. Obviously, a unit that a lot of people have had. It's got a pretty good reputation as a pretty deadly vehicle. So obviously it's heavy support choice. Weapon skill 6+, strength 7, toughness 8, which is nice. So it's got good toughness. Big difference between toughness 7 and toughness 8. It means it's 6s to wound for things that are strength 4. So basic weapons are starting to hurt it on 6s rather than 5s. Obviously a lot of heavy weapons are strength 7 and strength 8. So again, they're wounding you on 4s, not 4s or 3s. It's also got 12 wounds, which isn't too bad. Leadership 7 and a 3+ save, which is good. It goes down, movement 12 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches. Attacks 3, D3 and 1. So neither of those matter really. Movement, you're not going to be moving. Attacks, you don't want to be in combat. The only one that does hurt is ballistic skill. But even then, worst case, it's 5+. As long as something doesn't go to 6+, you've got a solid enough chance of hitting. So that's all good. Comes with an Exorcist missile launcher, obviously. So it has Shield of Faith, so has a 6+ invuln, you never know, might come in handy occasionally. It explodes. It does have smoke launchers, so once a game you can pop them instead of shooting. But unless, for any reason, there's a psychic power that stops you shooting, or you've literally not got a target, you're obviously going to shoot rather than pop them, but it's always good to have them there as an option. It can take a Storm Bolter, which we've been through, which is basically just a 2-shot bolt gun. It can take a hunter killer missile, which aren't too bad. 48 inches, heavy 1, strength 8, AP -2, D6 damage. You can only fire once per battle. But as long as you fire it while you're still hitting on 3s, see how many points they are before we consider whether you would take one of those. Hunter killer missiles are 6 points. I don't think it's something I'd purposely put on a vehicle, like go out to put it on the vehicle, but a lot of these lists you end up at the end of the list with 24 spare points. So if you've got 3 Exorcists, you could go, well, I'll have 3 hunter killer missiles and I'll put a hunter killer missile on my 1 Rhino, because why not? And you know, that's just 4 missiles first turn. You never know. They're all hitting on 3s. The strength 8, which is pretty good, AP -2, which is pretty good, and D6 damage. So if you've got some spare points, maybe throw that on. The final one is obviously the big one, the Exorcist missile launcher. So it's got 48-inch range, good stuff. It's heavy D6. It's unpredictable, but number 1, it's going to be good as many times as it's bad. Number 2, as you're about to see, it does do a lot of damage. So even if you don't get a lot of shots, it's not the end of the world. And finally, it's D6, not D3. So even if you don't roll brilliantly, you might still get 3 or 2 shots. So it's not the end of the world. Whereas D3, you know, you're getting 1 or 2 shots a lot of the time, which isn't brilliant. It's strength 8, nice strength. It's rare to get higher than that. AP -4, which is brilliant. So basically every vehicle in the game pretty much has a 3+ save, so they now don't have a save. So that's brilliant. And D3 damage, which is not incredible, but it's pretty solid. You know, you could have 2 damage, just flat 2 damage, but it's nice to have the chance of getting those 3s. Because obviously a lot of things have 12 wounds, like the Exorcist itself does. So if you can just get lucky on those D3s, you can start taking half the wounds off vehicles quite easily. But I think the main thing with the Exorcist is it's there to do a lot of damage on its own, but it's also there to team up, as I said, with things like the minions using that Vanguard rule, or the Seraphim dropping down with their Inferno pistols, and also to work in concert with other Exorcists. These guys aren't going to kill too much stuff on their own, or it'll take them quite a few turns. But if you have 3 of these, and they all fire their Exorcist missile launchers first turn, and all fire a hunter killer missile first turn at a target, whatever that target is, it's in trouble. It's going to take some real pounding unless you get really unlucky. And then, like I say, combined with Dominions and Seraphim up close, you can start stripping away even the biggest vehicles. Let's have a look how much it costs. So the Exorcist is 160 points. I assume that counts. Yeah, its missile launch is free. So basically it's 160 points or 166 with a hunter killer, which I feel like you might as well take. I think it's well pointed. I don't think it's underpointed, but I certainly don't think it's overpointed either. I know that heavy D6 is pretty unreliable, but if you've got 3 of them, that means averagely, it's not a bad roll, but it's also not a good roll. You're going to end up with 10 or 11 shots a turn. Assuming you're hitting on 3s, you're going to hit with 8 of those, roughly. And then, so that's 8 hits at strength 8, no save, D3 wounds. So even if they're toughness 8, you're then going to wound with 4. They're not going to get a save, and you're going to average 8 wounds. And that's just average. That's not rolling well, it's not getting lucky. And 8 wounds on most vehicles is pretty crippling. Even a monolith, which we consider a bit of a tough nut to crack now, with 20 wounds, it's already down to 12. And you haven't fired your hunter killers, they're probably going to take another D6 off on average luck. So that gets the monolith down to 9. And you've got other stuff you could potentially fire. And even if not, you still half crippled a monolith. And the 3 of these, even with their hunter killers, come in at under, I think, under 500, it's like 496. So it's under a quarter of your army to have 3 of these. And obviously your basic units are pretty cheap, so you haven't got to worry about a lot of points being taken up. So that's really good. So that's the part 2 review. We're moving on to part 3, which is the final part, and I will do a final review after that part on